Social media LS589. Today I want to talk a little bit about social media because it's a pretty new way of communicating and, of course, of building communities, of building trust, and communicating the message of the library, of the information center to the community. And in the case of social media, there are no boundaries because whatever means we use or whatever tool we use, uh, web-based tool of social media we use, we do not limit our information or our communication process to the surrounded community of our library. What we are doing is broadcasting our message worldwide. So we have to be not very careful. I wouldn't say very careful, but we have to be aware that whatever we broadcast in terms of information and whatever we want to communicate to our community is being heard or it's being watched or it's being read by others around the world. So it is very powerful in that regards. And as we have seen in the last few years, the use of social media by commerce and industry, it's growing and growing because they are able to get the message worldwide, and therefore they have they have clients all over the world. Well, in our libraries, in the case of the library, we normally will serve a community, a physical community that surrounds the library, and of course, we can use social media to reach that community, to inform that community, to market our services and market our collections. But just beware that that message is getting everywhere. Okay, so it is very interesting. It is a very it is I would characterize social media as a new field of study, and it's a very dynamic field that it develops more web-based tools all the time. Every month or every year, you see new tools to communicate that weren't there before. So it's very hard for us to keep up. In my case, for example, in my personal situation, I use Facebook, I use Twitter. I don't use other types of social media, but I know many of you are active users of Foursquare or Pinterest or other tools to communicate your message, to show your pictures, to share your thoughts, etc. When we do social media at a personal level, we control, and this is let me say something. This is also true, and I'm going to talk about this later on. This is also true for the institutional at the institutional level. But what we have to be aware is that we don't have control over the message. Once the message is out, it's out, and we cannot control. So the reputation, the personal reputation, and the institutional reputation, it's out there. I always tell my students, I taught a class on social media, and I think it was last winter. I told my students that when you use social media, you have to be very careful because once it's out, once it's published in the web, there's no way to control that. So be sure that before you broadcast a message, be sure that you are comfortable with anybody and everybody reading, watching, or listening to what you want to say. Here we have a one classification of social media, and there are many classifications of social media. If you go online, you will find many ways and many scholars classify social media differently because, as just said a few seconds ago, this is a very dynamic and new field that is evolving very fast. It's a field that goes hand by hand with information technologies. If we wouldn't have web-based information technologies, it would be very hard to have social media. Okay, and what we are seeing also that is social media is it is the direct competition to news and to television. So we spend lots of time reading Facebook or posting in Facebook or using Twitter, etc. So it's I'm really amazed how we have embraced this new channel of this new channel of communication called social media, and how it has become part of our life. There's a link there if you want to see this classification of the social. They call it the social web, and and please do so if you want to see what it's all about, and see which ones you are currently use. Here in commerce, this is a part of this classification social web. We have eBay and we have Amazon, and these are only examples. There are many other type of social web media. Let's call it. We have blogs. Blog is very important, and many libraries and many librarians. Librarians are very well known for managing blogs. I have tried myself to have blogs, but after a while I just quit and I don't update my blogs anymore, which is one of the problems with social media. If you are if in your library and you one of your plans is to have a social media channel, let's say by Twitter or Facebook or by blogging, make sure you keep that information up to date. The same thing is true with websites. If your library is going to have a website, that website have to be updated every day, because there is nothing worse than out of date information online. That really hurts a reputation, and that really frustrates your patrons. So it is very important to have the most updated information in the web, and that's a great advantage of the web, because let's say a directory, like a telephone directory. Well, if it's a printed version, you have to wait a year or 6 months or whatever the new director is coming out with the new telephone numbers. But if you're using, if you have an online director, you don't have to wait till the next cycle of printed publication to update phone numbers or new addresses or etc. So the same. So in every case, if you're going to use social media, if you're going to have a blog, if you're going to have a website, make sure you have updated information. For example, if you are broadcasting by Twitter your hours of operation, make sure those are the hours that you are operating that week. If you're going to close because you're going to do, some collection is not going to be available because you are cleaning or you're doing some preservation work, make sure you tell your community that such and such services or collections cannot be provided from one day to another. So we have blogs that are very important and are very dynamic, and you get a lot of information. And librarians, there are many blogs that are worth reading, that librarians manage and put a lot of information that it's very relevant to our field. So I recommend for you to look at that. We mentioned networking, and of course the main one is here. It's of course Facebook. It's but there are other channels too. But Facebook, let's say, is an example of the most known, the best known. I'm sorry, in terms of networking with your friends and making new connections, etc. Another one that it's very important if you haven't signed in, that I would recommend is LinkedIn. It is a professional network, and that's one way to keep in touch with your colleagues and also to make new connections. And in today's world, I guess always, but let's say in our reality, to know other people is very, very important. So please make sure you go to the link and see these social media tools and and the classification of social media. Here, this is another classification too. It's called social media tools, and we have social networks, and these are services that allow you to connect with other people of similar interest and background. For example, when you're connecting with your fellow librarians, usually they consist of a profile, various ways to interact with other users, ability to set up groups, etc. The most popular are Facebook and LinkedIn. This may change in the future. I know I don't use them, but I know there are other social networks in India and in Europe. Maybe in China, maybe Facebook is not as popular as others that millions of people are using. Bookmarking sites, services that allow you to save, organize, manage links to various websites and resources around the internet. This is a key social media tool for librarians. Most allow you to tag your links to make them easy to search and share. And this is the key word here. In social media, it's always about sharing. Okay, and it's not about private sharing. It's about public sharing. The most popular are Delicious and Stumble Upon. So that's two good tools that we can use to 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 uh, to classify, to tag links. Social news, of course, services that allow people to post various news items or links to outside articles. This is also very valuable for our libraries. To various websites and resources around the internet. Most allow you to tag your links to make them easy to search and share. I'm sorry, I misread that. I was reading social news. Again, social news services that allow people to post various news items or links to outside articles and then allow its user to vote on the items. The voting is the core social aspect, as the items that get the most votes are displayed the most prominently. The community decides which news items get seen by most people. So that's another example of another type of social media. Then we have media sharing. And for example, I use one of the main channels of media sharing, and that's YouTube. This is how I disseminate my classes. Services that allow you to upload and share various media such as pictures and video and music too. If you like music, there are other services that allow you to upload music that you create and you can share with your in your network. Most services have additional social features such as profile, commenting, etc. The most popular are YouTube and Flickr. Microblogging. And there is microblogging, of course. The most famous one or the most popular one is Twitter. Services that focus on short updates that are pushed out to anyone subscribed to receive the updates. The most popular is Twitter. So Twitter is another one that we can use in the library to communicate to our community in a very short message what we are doing or what plans we have or what programs we have. And that's called microblogging. And blog comments and forums. I, for example, belong to two or three different forums, and I get a lot of information there, and I share my and disseminate my own information and my own knowledge there. So forums are very important too. Online forums allow members to hold conversations by posting messages. Blog comments are similar except that they are attached to blogs, and usually the discussion centers around the topic of the blog post. There are many popular blogs and forums. And it also depends on what your interests are. Okay, for example, I like photography, I like music, I play guitar, so I'm subscribed to several guitar and photography forums. And if you have your own interest, you can do the same too. This is another link where you can see the classification of social media. Now, what is the why do we do social media? And this is very important. Of course, maybe the personal motivation is just to communicate. We as human beings have the need to communicate information. We like to talk to people. We like to write. We like to paint. We like to make sound. We like to make music, etc. We are uh, communication beings. This I'm making this up as a classification. Instead of saying we are Homo sapiens, I said we are communication beings. Instead of human beings, this is another facet of humanity. And I think from the very beginning, from the first man or the first woman that walked on this earth, the need to communicate with each other was there. That need was there. So with social media, and I feel that one of the things we use social media for is because we want to communicate our ideas. Our ideas may be right or may be wrong. We may communicate information or misinformation or disinformation, but still we want to communicate. But the idea when we think about an institution such as a library, not at the personal level, when we decide to use social media in our to communicate an institutional message, we have to think about building trust and reciprocity, building trust in the community. Okay, and with that trust comes reciprocity, and with reciprocity comes the feedback. Okay, you are going to have feedback from the community too. But in order to build trust, your information has to be relevant, it has to be pertinent, it has to be good information. Also, another issue in social media and building social capital, it's making connections. And this works at the personal level and the institutional level. So these are two positive aspects of social media. You are building trust and reciprocity, and you are making connection. This is what we call social capital in social media. Okay, social capital, and this is very, very important. And this is what we have to aim at when we have a social media strategy at our library. We have to make a plan. We have to designate a person who is going to be keeping the site or the blog or the Facebook page or the Twitter up to date. Because if we don't do it that way, then that effort is going to be lost because you won't be able to build trust. You won't be able to make connections. So it is very important. Connecting, okay. If we are in a library, we want to connect to patrons. We want to connect to our communities. Remember what I said at the beginning. We are going to connect not only with the community that we serve, the surrounding community of the library, but we are going to connect with a worldwide community, which is great. We may get inquiries and we may get messages from other places in the U.S. and outside the U.S. So our library, and this is what web-based technologies have done to our libraries. Now I don't see anymore what we used to think about the rural library, for example. A rural library is that building isolated from civilization in a mountain or in a desert. Well, that's not true anymore. There's no small libraries anymore, because once we have an internet connection, we are connected to the rest of the world. And by that connection that we have, by that information technology, we can provide our patrons with a window to the world. And that's not a philosophical uh, point of view. This is a reality. Okay. So even the most remote location in Alaska, in somewhere, that there's nobody there, but if you have a internet connection, you can serve that community with a wealth of information available that you didn't have 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm sorry, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago. Now we have a window to the to the world of information, and we can communicate our message to the world, and we can disseminate our message to the world. So, but in the case of a library, of course, you want to connect to your patrons. That's your main mission. And why do you want to connect to your patron? Because you want to build social capital. Okay, you want to create a social network. A social network, because the social network is the one that is going to support your library. Your patrons are the supporters of your library, of your mission. If there are no patrons, there's no need to have a library. That would be something different. So when we think about a library, it's like the same thing when I think about a university. I cannot think about a university without students. There's no point of having a university if nobody's coming to the university. Well, the same thing, it's for me at least, and these are my opinions. You cannot have a library without patrons. Okay, so you want to build that social network, and that's a new channel that you have. Of course, you have to serve your patrons physically that come to your library to ask for uh, services, and to read your collections or watch your movies, etc., or use your internet connection. But also, another way to build that social network and to create that and to build that social capital is through social media interaction. And this is very important too. If you open a channel of social media such as Twitter, and people reply to what you are to the message that you are publishing or that you are broadcasting, make sure you have the staff and the time to interact with your patrons. Because if you don't do that, then you're not building social capital. You're not building trust. I know you have seen many examples like that when there's this person or this company that is putting out a message, but there is no interaction. So it's like talking to a wall. Well, the library have to make an effort if it's going to use social media, uh, and if it's going to use a social media channel, that channel is an interactive channel, because that is what builds trust and social capital. Okay, so make that consideration, and that gets to the next point, that it's participation in conversations and relationships. We are a public institution. As I have said it many times, we are the most democratic institution in the world. This is my opinion. I'm talking about the libraries. as a concept. Well, the library is the most important institution for me. It's the most democratic institution for me. Why? Because we serve the community, and we have an open door policy. Everybody should be welcome to a library. We cannot say no to anybody that comes to the library. Again, these are my opinions. You may have different opinions. Well, the same thing if we are going to open a social media channel, we have to make sure that we have the same open door policy and that we are going to carry on interaction, conversation, and that we are going to build relationships with our community. Again, it may not be your surrounding community, it may be a worldwide community. So think about that when you decide to implement a social media strategy in your library. Okay, the message. This is and this is another very important aspect of what social media is. In the past, when there was no social media, there was a television or newspapers, printed newspaper. Well, the editor of the newspaper or the editor of the news in the television channel that were able to control the message and the channel. Okay. Well, with social media, it's not that way. You cannot control the message. Once the message is out, uh, anybody can use your message. Very hard to control it. And the channel, it is impossible to control. So you have to realize that you do not control the message once it's out, and you do not control the channel, because social media is open to everyone. There is no official voice or moderator, and and this is very important. You may have, or you may bring about many negative comments, and your reputation, your personal reputation, or your institutional reputation may be hurt by social media. Okay, and there's no way to control that. However, here is what makes this thing very interesting. It is better, in my opinion, again, in my opinion, to participate in social media, because at least you are able to know what is being said about you and about your institution. Okay, about you in your personal, in your uh, as a person, and about the institution as the institution, as the library. If you don't participate because you are, I said, no, I'm not going to go in and see Facebook. I'm not going to be part of social media. You don't know what negative message is being broadcast against you, and uh, you cannot protect your reputation. So my message is, even if we don't like social media, we have to participate because it's here. At least if we don't disseminate any information through social media, we have to be aware that social media is there and that there may be information out there that is hurting our reputation. Just like gossipy in a community, mouth to mouth gossipy. Well, the same thing happens in the web-based world, in the digital world, in the alternative reality. And that's why I think that every institution should have a plan to participate in social media, to disseminate, to broadcast a positive message, to interact with the community, to build a social network, to build trust, and therefore to create and to build and strengthen social capital. That's the key, and that's why we use social media. Okay, thank you.